Hello everybody. I am Ermly91 and in this video I will talk about suggestions for NBA Live's Rising Star mode. I would like to clarify that I will try to give realistic suggestions, and by this I mean ones that the dev team can achieve without extra costs. Based on this I won't suggest things like playing for your national country, which would require EA getting back the FIBA license, or playing in college before going to the NBA because of how delicate is the situation with the NCAA in regards to video game likenesses. The suggestions given in this video are separated in 6 areas: pre-draft, player roles and franchise roles, goals, off-season, free agency, and others. Each will be expanded in more detail, saying ideas that could be implemented possibly in future releases of the franchise. The first area I would like to comment on is the pre-draft. Currently there isn't much in this aspect of the mode, which I believe should be an extremely important part of the journey that you could have in your career as an NBA player. In NBA Live, the beginning of the mode is more or less an afterthought. You customize your player, select playing style including height or weight, which would determine your initial ratings, play the Jordan Showcase, and then you get drafted surely during the first round. What I would like to achieve with my suggestions in this part of the mode is to give variety to the player and show how his experience can differ by making certain choices, because I believe people want their players and career be different from the rest. Firstly, to achieve this the player has to make choices that would affect his draft stock before playing any drill or game. These are the player's college, the amount of years in said college, his player role during those years, draft projection and his initial ratings. By selecting the university where you played, your stock can be high or not. Choosing bigger and more known colleges would give you more chances to get drafted sooner than later, because GMs most likely would draft players from schools who have a better reputation of having quality NBA players. So for instance, creating a player who played for Duke would have better chances to be chosen earlier than a player from New Mexico. Also, creating someone who played pro in a foreign country, GMs would be more reluctant to select him as a top pick, but if he is very good he could be picked in the lottery. Another selection that would influence your player is the amount of years in college. Creating a one-and-done player would cause worse ratings than a senior who more likely can be an NBA-ready player, but the aforementioned would have more potential than the later person. On the other side, creating someone like a junior or senior could guarantee a more polished player, which would be one with better ratings but less potential. The third option that the player has to choose is their role in their college's last season. Having a big role like the team's go-to guy or starter would give you more chances to be drafted early, while being a sixth man or bench player would have their stock go lower. Draft projection would be where experts predict your player to be drafted, top 5, lottery, late first round, second round, or undrafted. The initial ratings of the player will be affected by the options the person had to choose before and by distributing them between certain categories. The decisions that the player had to make about college, years in it, role in said place will determine the ratings cap that the future pro will have. As mentioned earlier, the ones who stayed more years playing with their university will have a bigger cap than a one and done. Also, the combination of college and player role in it will also decide how much will the cap be. For example, a starter from a big school most likely will have better ratings than the star of a mediocre college team. With the cap determined with what has just been mentioned, now the person would have to distribute how much of said cap will focus on each individual rating. After having all that established, it is time for the pre-draft workouts. These workouts would consist in several drills depending on the type of player. If he is a center, for example, then his drills would be post-scoring and post-defense. If he is a shooting guard, then his would be outside shooting or off the dribble and one-on-one defense. Then, when those drills are done, there would be a 5-on-5 scrimmage against other college players. In case EA could give the draft combine license, then they could take advantage of it, and having these things in the respective place with the correct jerseys. If not, it could perfectly happen in a regular gym full of scouts in the stands like some players go before the draft combine. In the end, during the draft, GMs would choose based on strengths that the coach or franchise wants, and draft by need, like drafting a starting small forward, or for the future, which would look into the player's potential. Now, In the second area of suggestions I will talk about player and franchise roles. What I want to achieve with player roles is that the player is aware on what he has to focus based on what the coach wants him to do. For instance, if the player is a shooter, then he needs to try to fill that role on the team instead of trying to be something else. Franchise roles are the position in which the team designate what the player is for said franchise. These will be chosen based on age, potential, ratings and stats mainly. Both aspects are what affect what goals the player has to fulfill during his time with the franchise. The player roles could be scorer, shooter, playmaker, defensive anchor, defensive stopper and blue collar, and franchise roles would be prospect, rising star, second banana, franchise player, and veteran. What I will talk about next is goals. One of the reasons why I couldn't play much of NBA Live 15's Rising Star mode is because of the lack of challenges that there is on it. I know that the ultimate goals are win championships and to get into the Hall of Fame, but there is not much besides that, which can make the road to that tedious and without the sense of achievement which this game lacks. By having goals to meet, the player can feel there is a purpose to what he is doing, something that can keep him playing the mode. The goals would be separated in three: short-term goals, medium-term goals and long-term goals. Short-term goals are the ones set for a single game, medium-term goals are the ones that the player has in a month basis, and long-term goals will last an entire season. Short and medium-term goals are flexible in a way that they depend on how the player is doing during the season, while long-term goals are set before the beginning of the season. Moreover, in each type, the player will have a list of 3 goals that he has to fulfill. These will depend on the type of player and franchise roles he has, although franchise roles would have more impact on long-term goals. For example, someone who is a starter and has the playmaker role would have as one of his medium-term goals to have at least 5 assists per game. Succeeding or failing the goals set for your player could have a positive or negative impact to you. By achieving short and long-term goals, you can get more playing time, especially if your player is not getting many minutes. By fulfilling medium and long-term goals, your player will get better ratings and chances to get a better contract when the currently one is done, even more if said goals are set during his contract year. And by succeeding the long-term goals, the player can get an upgrade in his franchise role. However, by failing short and medium-term goals, the player will get less playtime, and by failing medium and long-term goals, he will get a decrease in his ratings, and less interest in teams to offer him a contract. Also, if he constantly does not achieve goals, he will get into the trading block and even get traded. Another aspect which I would like to be more developed, or at least have a bigger role, is the off-season. A moment where the person can make decision who will affect how the player will face the following season. The different aspects in which the player can distribute his off-season would be rest, conditioning, gain weight and muscle, lose weight and muscle, individual training, cooperative training and individual training with a coach. By having more rest, your player would have a decrease in his stamina rating, but the advantage would be that he has less chances of getting injured compared to training. Conditioning would make your stamina ratings get better and a slight improvement in other athletic categories like quickness. By gaining weight and muscle, besides having a different body type in game, there would be better ratings in strength but worse in speed and quickness, while by losing weight and muscle it would be the other way around. Individual training would be the cheapest of the 3 type of training, but the one with the least impact in ratings increase of the 3. While the individual training with a coach would be the most expensive but at the same time the one which would make the player improve the most. Individual and cooperative training let you improve several areas of your game, while individual with coach let you only one. The different areas which players can improve by training during the off-season would be shooting, passing, post-offense and defense. The off-season would be separated in 15 weeks, so the person would have to choose how many weeks the player would spend doing the activities mentioned before. The next area I would like to mention is free agency. Whenever your player becomes a free agent, franchise will make you offers which you could accept, decline, or make a counter-offer. If you are a requested player, you could make a counter-offer and teams would later make you another one more suited to what you asked. But if you are not an important player in the league, teams would not make you a second offer. If your player is a marquee free agent, teams will show interest even before free agency begins. Maybe even players from said teams can throw you pitches to join them. During the first week or two of free agency, bigger free agents would get signed. After that, then teams would begin making offer to the rest of the players. Teams that make you an offer will contain two main things: monetary offers and non-monetary offers. Monetary offers will contain guaranteed money, length of contract, bonus money based on goals like make it to the playoffs or become the MVP, and player or team options. Non-monetary offers will contain your franchise and player role in the team, playing time, no trade clauses in some occasions, and some teams could also offer you off-season training bonus which could help you improve certain ratings depending on who works in the franchise, for example passing skills with Jason Kidd with the Bucks or post offense with Hakeem Olajuwon with the Rockets. Keep in mind that some franchises' GM can offer you contracts with unrealistic expectations, for instance be their franchise player and become an all-star even though you are barely a starter, causing your player to underperform and get a decrease in ratings. During those negotiations you can check each team's salary cap, owner's intention to invest in the team like will to pay luxury tax, or stay below the salary cap, current roster with its projected starting lineup, team's previous season stats, recent signings, ESPN rumors about the team and other free agents. Now I will mention a few other suggestions that are not related with the previous topics. I believe people should have a use to spend their contract money in something instead of just having a number of how much their players earn through their entire NBA career. In my opinion, they could use said money to buy shoes from the different brands that are in the game and maybe customize them if it is possible, accessories like headbands or shooting sleeves, tattoos, and off-season conditioning, training or regimens to gain or lose weight and muscle. I know these things are really trivial, but it could be a start to make money somewhat more important in this mode. In addition, your player could get shoe deals with brands depending on your play. There would be two types of shoe deals, a basic one which the player would get free shoes from the brand's catalog which would be team colored, and then it's the representative deal which would have the ability to customize shoes and even maybe create your own line of personalized shoes. More than that, minute opportunities would depend on the franchise situation. For instance, a rebuilding team would tend to play younger players and championship contenders would give more minutes to established players, and also by completing goals and by the coach's rotations and preferences. A few other small suggestions would be that the type and effectiveness of in-season training will depend on coaches and trainers' ratings in such areas. Player ratings would change during the season by current season stats and by fulfilling or failing their goals. That during the off-season you could become the NBA Live cover star if you have a great season. The option to have the draftees in their real teams. Another one would be that if your player gets selected in between the first picks and a lottery, then he most likely would be started from the get-go. If not, then he would be a bench player with his minutes depending on what was mentioned before. Those are basically all the suggestions I have to refresh this mode and make it more attractive. I hope you find them as important to the mode as I think they are. If not, you could give your opinions in the comment section below, or even better, say what you think to the NBA Live team. Let your voice be heard by them so they know what the community wants them to improve. Thanks for watching and have a good day.